In downtown St. Pete, as the morning finally sheds light on the situation, we are getting a real taste of reality and how much flooding has really happened here. We are right here on Bayshore in downtown St. Pete, right by the Bayshore Yacht Club at the intersection of Bayshore and Central. And there's probably a couple feet of water in certain places. Now, if you look down the road, you can see just a couple blocks down is the entrance to where you would go to the St. Pete Pier. And it is significantly flooded in these areas. Certain areas are higher up. You'll be able to get to dry ground on the roads, but then you'll be back in deep water. So not a good idea to be out here driving on this. But just wanted to kind of give you a first look and what is happening here in downtown St. Pete, right along the waterway here. Even the boats right up to the seawall floating. Nothing's kind of broken loose. There's some cars over there. You can see how deep the water is. The car's coming up all the way, or the water coming up all the way to the door on those parked cars. So it is a significant situation, and there's going to be a lot of cleanup to do here in downtown St. Pete. Jenny Dean, 10 Tampa Bay.
Yeah, we're making our way through Manatee County this morning, seeing the impacts of some of that storm surge and flooding. We're here in Ribonia, a community north of Palmetto in Manatee County, just off the bay that's connected to Tampa Bay. You can see this area just inundated with water this morning. We actually talked to the woman who lives in that house you see right there with the sandbags. She says they have close to a foot of water inside their homes, just some devastating stuff in this neighborhood. And we're obviously standing as deep as we want to really get. We don't know what's in this water. And as you can see, it just gets deeper out there and deeper. Some trucks try to make their way through this neighborhood. We also saw the sheriff's office on scene here, just making sure people that need to get out of their homes are able to do so. Right now, things are looking good in that manner, but as you can see, the flooding just causing problems throughout the county, whether it's shutting down roads or actually going into people's homes. We're in Ribonia. Aaron Parsegian, 10 Tampa Bay.
We're here on Swan Avenue, just off of Bayshore Boulevard, and I'm talking with residents here just about how severe the flooding has been. You can see behind me sandbags lined here, tarps taped up. I spoke with the resident who lives here. He tells us he hasn't seen flooding this bad in years.
This is probably one of the worst that I've seen here in the South Tampa Bay area. But I'd probably say close to it was probably 8 or 10 years ago when we got hit. It sets you back a little bit. Struggling too because my flood insurance just canceled me. But fortunately, I have flood insurance coverage for another week, which is good. But yeah, it's a little disheartening and it's nerve-wracking, but we'll get through it.
The City of Tampa's emergency operations, they had their drones in the air earlier today, getting an aerial view of that damage done. It also gives them access to knowing which roads are accessible, because here on Bayshore Boulevard here, when you see flooding like this, clearly these roads are impassable. We've seen situations like this in the hours we've been covering this area all morning long. Drivers tried to test their luck and they find themselves stranded on these roads. Now, a lot of Bayshore Boulevard looks like what you're seeing here now. That storm surge, it pushed the water in here, and there's at least a foot of flooding in some of these areas. Now, 10 Tampa Bay, we will be staying on top of the coverage, letting you know which roads are open, which ones remain impassable as we wait for these waters to recede. For now, in Tampa, Malik Rankin, 10 Tampa Bay.
time, it went from no water to this. So I...
Even though we are still seeing some wind and rain out here in the Carillon area of St. Pete, that's just off the Howard Franklin Bridge, I would definitely say these are still the best conditions that we have seen over the past 9 or 10 hours. Now, throughout the night, we have been able to see the Howard Franklin Bridge off and on, and I want you to take a look at your screen now and look really closely at the center. You see that faint blue light? That is the law enforcement officer who is positioned on the bridge to stop people from going on. And like I said, 1 minute you might be able to see that person clearly, the next minute you can barely make out that flashing blue light. So these conditions just change from minute to minute, but again, not too bad out here. And if you're familiar with this area, there are a lot of ponds around here. Some of those are overflowing, but nothing like we're seeing from other areas. We checked in with viewer Vincent Tormenia earlier this morning. He was seeing that water coming up to his door, and he sent some fresh video in the sunlight. He's assessing the damage today. Now, even though it might not look too bad where you are, you might think you might be able to go out. If you have the opportunity to stay indoors, please do so. Look at the rain picking up right now. This is how quickly things can change. And again, you don't want to get caught up on your route in some storm surge and some of that water coming onto the roadway. So we will continue to keep an eye on conditions for you in St. Pete. Miranda Parnell in Tampa Bay.
This is Neil Fisher with 10 Tampa Bay out here off of Tamiami Trail. And the Philippi Creek has actually come into the Philippi Creek Village. As you can see, water has risen so significantly, it is starting to come into the parking lot, affecting some of these buildings in the village. While this hair salon has a few sandbags right here in front of this main door, as you turn the corner, it's not the same case, and that is where the water is. As you can see, a few inches of water right up against the walls of this hair salon and this gift shop, and we can see inside the gift shop and the hair salon there is water inside the floors of this gift shop as well as the hair salon. Some of the items inside are ruined, and again, this is 2 to 3 inches maybe right here in the parking lot against these doors where there aren't sandbags. So these buildings are being impacted by the Philippi Creek. Water's rising. Again, you can see that this restaurant over here has its lights on, which is a good sign. They may have power right now, but they are inundated with water from the Philippi Creek.
I've been here 8 years and I haven't seen the flooding like this before. So I'm from Michigan originally, so I wanted to get out here and check this out and see what it was all about and hopefully avoid the alligators and driving in my truck.
So if you've seen this shark here at the Philippi Creek Village off of Tamiami Trail, you know where we are. Reporting in South Sarasota, Neil Fisher, 10 Tampa Bay.
I'm in downtown Tampa at the intersection of Rome and Bayshore Boulevard. And what we've seen here is water receding, but at one point, look at that debris. That's how high the water got this morning during high tide. Barricades have been placed still because we are still expecting the water to rise again during high tide, as our meteorologists have been saying. Now, this water has continued to go down, but we have seen exactly what officials are telling us not to do, and that's get into the water. We've seen anywhere from children playing in the water to bike riding, cars driving in this water. We've also seen kayaking, paddleboarding. So just to reiterate, this is exactly what we're not supposed to do. You don't know what's in the water. The water is salt water, so that could really cause some damage to whatever you're putting in there as far as any vehicles go. And something else is that water can deteriorate roads. You don't exactly know what's under there, especially if you can't see. This water is not the clearest. We have seen debris in this water as well, and you saw it over there. Now, officials also expecting this to come back up. We've heard our meteorologists say it as well, so please just be very cautious. We're not through it just yet.
Yeah, here in Charleston, we're dealing with the normal factors of any tropical storm that comes ashore. Heavy winds, as you can see by it pushing these boats right here at the Cooper River. Of course, a lot of bands of rain. flooding has already been happening throughout the town. We can tell you that several street and road closures have already occurred. They say even more may occur.
Number one concern is flooding, so we move our cars to high ground and put sandbags out in front of doors and gates.
This is the calm before the high tide comes at about 8 o'clock tonight, and then landfall tomorrow for that tropical storm.
We are back in downtown Waycross, and this is worse than we have seen it so far all day. At one point, I just heard the wind whistling through the trees. I just heard up here as well on the Holiday Inn, a panel, there it goes, a panel of the roof has detached and it's been blowing in the wind. I heard the first time it did that, it sounded kind of like a just a detaching sound, and the wind gusts are getting much heavier. You can tell in the trees. We're right here, you can tell by the Holiday Inn. We've got the Walgreens, a Shell station, Burger King. We're right near the Walmart in Waycross. Things have really picked up here. The rain, not so much. I spoke with the fire chief just a little bit ago, and he said that this is really where we are getting into it. You really need to be aware of your surroundings right now because the wind is picking up so much. At many of the intersections around here, we have the street lights blowing a lot in the wind, so be careful there. We have been speaking with people around who have faced one man over on the outskirts of town a little bit on the east side said that he had been dealing with his fence falling apart and is hoping that it just holds steady today. We also spoke to a man who's staying in a hotel just down the road. He was staying in a mobile home with his wife 15 miles from here. They decided to get a hotel instead so that they could feel safer in a more sturdy place with walls. We'll be keeping you updated throughout the rest of the day here in Waycross and throughout Ware County. If there's anything that you're able to show us and you're in a safe spot that you can take a video or a picture, you can do so through the Near Me app. Near Me part of the First Coast News app. But just make sure you're in a safe spot if you're going to do that. For now, I'm Renata DiGregorio in Ware County. First Coast News on your side.
Lou Turner in Lake City, Columbia County, Highway 90 behind me with an alternative view, a little bit different view from around town. We've had branches down, we've had power outages as well, and that seems to be some of the limit to the issues that we've seen here. Not the flash flooding, not an issue because of how quickly this hurricane really moved through the Panhandle and up into southeast Georgia. Right now, it's an assessment period. We've moved into that last assessment period, so we'll see as authorities go through, and there have been police from Lake City as well as Columbia County deputies all over today, and as you can see, also see behind me, lots of traffic back on the road as we do, at least here in Lake City, say goodbye to Idalia. From Columbia County, I'm Louis Turner, First Coast News on your side.
Well, coming to you this afternoon from Garden City Beach, South Carolina, where the beginnings of those heavier bands of Idalia are now starting to push in along the Grand String. Garden City, then moving up to Myrtle's Inlet, eventually Myrtle Beach. And you notice that wind is really picking up, gusting around 40 miles per hour, and those torrential bands of rain are now starting to move in. If you remember, it wasn't but about a year ago that Hurricane Ian really battered this part of the coast, and for that reason, there's not a lot of sand left to help alleviate some of those flooding issues. So Horry County, the city of Myrtle Beach, have started to create, of course, Garden City Beach have created those man-made dunes with all that sand to hopefully alleviate some of those issues, but still an area that's so prone to flooding. Also with high tide, we'll likely see storm surge issues here over the next 24 hours. Reporting in Garden City, South Carolina, I'm Christian Morgan.